to let you know that you can count on it. And we know we can count on it because history tells us that the future is going to be bright. I was thinking about this. What caused me to come up with this idea was, that's me, was a newspaper story that I saw in which Stephen Hawking was saying that we are in danger of being destroyed by our technology, that technology is going to overcome us, and it will take over our lives and it will destroy us. And I was reading this and I was thinking to myself, the only thing he left out was Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come back naked from the future and kill John Connor. It doesn't sound like Stephen Hawking, it sounds like Stephen King. And I thought, well, this is usual. I mean, I'm surprised that somebody as intelligent as Stephen Hawking would be so deficient in knowing the history. Because history says technology is going to be a good thing and it's going to make our lives better. But it's not a new phenomenon that people criticize technology. If you look at modern technology, has been criticized as early as the 1800s. These are the Luddites. The Luddites were afraid that technology was going to destroy them. And so they actually attacked technology with tools and hammers. But even though the technology still improved and made everybody's life better, even today we still have people running around telling us that technology is a bad thing. This is another genius, like Stephen Hawking. This guy, he was accepted into Harvard. His name is Ted Kaczynski, and he was accepted into Harvard University at the age of 16. He achieved a PhD in mathematics at the age of 24 from the University of Michigan. And he was a mathematics lecturer at Cal Berkeley. But eventually he left that because he felt that technology was hurting society and hurting people, and that technology was killing people. So he left and he moved off to a cabin in Montana where he lived without technology, where he lived without electricity and plumbing. But he still felt that the technology was dangerous. So he began to send bombs to people who he felt were responsible for technology, and he ended up killing 3 people and injuring 27. When the police caught him, this is what he looked like. Clearly he could have been helped by the technology of a hairbrush. But it's not new and it's not unusual that people are going to complain about the technology. The idea is even among people that we kind of expect to know better. Albert Einstein once said, "It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity." No, it hasn't. Our humanity is our sense of ourselves and our sense of security with other people. In Einstein's time, we had atomic weapons. In 1962, the United States and the Soviet Union came as close as you could possibly come to using them. We hated each other, literally hated each other. Both sides were afraid the other side was going to use atomic weapons first, but neither side would. Even though we really weren't sure about the technology, we still understood. We couldn't do it. And we didn't. The technology has not surpassed or exceeded our humanity. Our humanity stays well above the technology. Technology is a great thing. Most of you drove a car to this school. You didn't walk. You would have froze if you would have walked. Cars, buses, trucks, planes, those are technology, and they make our lives better. A phone, a cell phone. I mean, a phone itself is an incredible piece of technology, but a cell phone, it's not just a phone. It's a camera, it's a flashlight, it's a television. Some of you can't even imagine life without it. Yet, it's supposed to be destroying us? To me, the most telling piece is when we play. Seriously, all right? I mean, think about it. The technology of play, of recreation, has made our lives better. This is play 1,500 years ago. This is from a mosaic in Constantinople, the Palace of Constantinople, and it shows a boy, and he's playing. And he's using the technology of the day. It's a wheel, and he's got a stick. And basically, the rule of the game was you kept the wheel rolling using the stick. And that was play. That was how you entertained yourself 1,500 years ago. Looks really gripping, I'm sure. Well, then 150 years ago, this is play. And as you can see, it's still a hoop and a stick. This is Renoir's Girl with the Hoop. And it shows her, she's got her little hoop and a stick, and she's ready to play. Terrific. Well, you'd think the technology of play would improve over time. This is about 80 years ago. And it did improve. Now there's 2 hoops and 2 sticks. Is this really the way you want to spend your time, pass your time? Most people would say PlayStation, Xbox, those are a little bit better. Now, I know your mothers complain. Your mother said, no. They don't allow you to use your imagination. Imagination is better. No, imagination is not better. If you're starving, imagining food is not better than food. And then your mother says, well, no, you got to get out. You can't sit there and pretend to do these things. You got to get out there and do them. Well, what if you're playing Assassin's Creed? Does she really want you to go out there and do these things? Is this what you're supposed to be doing? I don't think so. I think technology is cool, and it's making everybody's life better. It's helping us live longer. The irony that Stephen Hawking is worried about technology, I'm going to skip right by that. What else? Well, I'm reading the paper. This was just a couple days ago. Overpopulation. Initiative is pointless unless we tackle overpopulation. Clearly, overpopulation is a problem. Why? Why is overpopulation a problem? Well, I'm looking at the picture, and they got 4 babies stacked on top of each other, so I'm assuming they're saying that we're all going to be all crowded. You know, that if we have more people, there's just going to be no room for anybody. We're all going to be standing around like this, hoping this, we're all going to look like we're in line at the bank or something like that. I'm trying to figure this out. Just how crowded are we? And how crowded are we going to be? So I took the land surface of the Earth, about 148 million square kilometers. Now, scientists will tell you that a third of that is uninhabitable, that people just won't live there or can't live there. So we could take out a third, but I took out half, because there are other places too. You know, Antarctica, the Sahara, New Jersey, places that nobody wants to live in. That leaves us with 74 million square kilometers. All right? Now, with a population today of 7.2 billion people, what that means is we have a global population density of 98 people per square kilometer, which is roughly equal to the density of Austria. So what does Austria look like? Is it really crowded? Well, there's a lot of people there. That's a city. You kind of expect people to, but you would expect, okay, 98 people per square kilometer, it's just got to be people everywhere. Well, I'm sure there would be people everywhere if there was people in here, but there's not. The fact is that 98 people per square kilometer isn't that bad. We can live with it. But the United Nations says that population is going to grow. We can assume it will, because it always does. By 2050, they're saying that the population is going to be 9.6 billion people. What does that mean? So we take the same measure, 74 million square kilometers, only now, and I didn't use 9.6 because I can't do the math, I used 10 billion. We say 10 billion people on Earth. That gives us a global population density of 135 people. Now that's more than 98, that's for sure. And that would be roughly equal to the current population density of the Czech Republic. So what does that look like? There must be teeming numbers of people just bumping into each other all over the place. No, not quite. That's Czech Republic. So I'm really kind of sure that the problem is not going to be population density. And historically, that hasn't been the concern. Historically, the concern has been food. We're going to run out of food. The guy who starts this, in modern age anyway, is a guy by the name of Thomas Malthus. Now, I'm not expecting you to read all this, although you probably should, because I think it's pretty cool. But basically what Malthus says is that we are going to have more babies than food. Now, this is my diagram. I made this, and I'm very proud of it, so look at it long and hard. What it shows is, over time, the human population will exceed the food supply. What Malthus said was that people will have babies forever and ever and ever, but you can plant corn, you can plant wheat, you can plant here, you can plant there, but eventually you're going to run into the ocean. And you're going to stop having places. So therefore, the population will exceed the food supply. Now, he didn't say it like that. He said population, when unchecked, increases in a geometrical ratio. I don't know what that means, but it sure sounds serious. Means of subsistence could not possibly be made to increase faster than an arithmetical ratio. Once again, I don't know what that means, but it does sound serious once again. Now, understand, what he's saying is that the population, and in his day, he's not talking about sometime later, the population was in imminent danger of a crash because the food supply was going to run out. He wrote this in 1798 when the population of the world was about 1 billion. Okay, that was 200 years ago. We've now got 7.2 billion. How long are we supposed to be waiting for this? Well, the fact of the matter is, there are people who said, well, we don't have to wait. Let's talk about it again. In the modern age, we had this. This is the population bomb written by Paul Ehrlich. He is you notice Dr. Paul Ehrlich. You would expect him to be a demographer or somebody who's an expert on population. He's actually an expert on bugs. But I guess that Malthus wasn't an expert either. He was an Anglican minister. But anyway, if you read this, it says, while you are reading these words, 4 people will have died from starvation. So I guess you should stop reading. Because if you stop reading, people stop dying. And Ehrlich says that we are using up the food. That the food supply on Earth is going to... Now remember, he wrote this in 1968. What are we talking about? Oh, roughly 50 years ago. And the very first line he writes, the very first line in this book, the battle to feed all of humanity is over. In other words, there's nothing we can do about it. There's too many people, not enough food, and there's nothing we can do about it now. It's simply trying to save ourselves. The train of events leading to the dissolution of India as a viable nation is already in motion. In other words, in 1968, Paul Ehrlich was saying that India would starve itself into oblivion. So I guess, Mr. D'Souza, you come from a place that no longer exists. By the year 2000, the United Kingdom will be simply a small group of impoverished islands inhabited by some 70 million people, hungry people. He says, if I were a gambler, I would take even money that England will not exist in the year 2000. It does. And not only does it still exist, it's incredibly wealthy and has a gigantic population and seems to be doing just fine. The fact of the matter is, he was dead wrong. We have increased food supplies like you wouldn't believe, and we continue to do so. Not you and me, I'm not a farmer, and neither are most of you. But on a global scale, between 1968, when Ehrlich wrote The Population Bomb, and 2013, the population increased by 3 billion people. Yet the overall total food supply for each individual person living on Earth in 2013 was 25% more than it was in 1968. So, yes, we are increasing the number of people, and we are increasing the amount of food. And there's no reason to suggest that we won't. Although, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they stated, this is from a report in 2014, March 2014, climate change has already cut into the global food supply. Global crop yields are beginning to decline, raising doubts as to whether production can keep up with population growth. Now this was in March of 2014. This says 2015, that's a typo, it should be 2014. Bloomberg Business reports in August of 2014 wrote record global harvests. In other words, you don't see a decline in food production, you see an increase. And 2015, there was an increase as well. I'm not saying that these guys are, they're dead wrong about everything. It's just, everybody, intuitively, it seems to make a lot of sense. We're going to run out of food. But the fact is history says we're not. And so far, we haven't. We've done some great things. We're told over and over again that the future is getting more and more bleak, that we should become more desperate, that the lives of the people are becoming worse, when in reality, the lives of humanity is getting better. You can look at just a couple of measures. The percentage of the world population living in poverty. Now, the United Nations identifies you as living in poverty if you're living on less than $2 a day. Now, I admit, if you're living on $2.50 a day, you're not living like Bill Gates. But the number of people living on less than $2 a day, in 1981, 53% of the population, 53% of the world's population was living in absolute poverty. In 2011, that number fell to 17%. In absolute numbers, even though population has grown, the number of people living in poverty is smaller. So clearly we're doing something right. We can't sit there and say, well, the world is going to hell in a handbasket, when everybody is actually making more money, and less and less people are living in poverty. Does that mean that there are people not living in poverty? Unfortunately not. There are people. And we can still continue to make their lives better too. And there's no reason to think that we won't, because we do. Another indicator that things are getting better. One of the concerns we have is child labor. children should not be working full-time to support their families, sometimes in dangerous jobs. And we all recognize that. And we're told that it's just horrible, and it is, but it's getting smaller. The number of children employed as laborers in 2000 was 246 million. Now, in 2012, it's 168 million. That's still 168 million too many. But that's 30% less in just 12 years. The truth of the matter is, progress is the indicator of the future, not despair. I know we are told again and again that we must be concerned with global warming and climate change, and we should be. But do we really need to think that it's going to kill us? Probably not, because nothing else has. You look at the way we started out 6.5 million years ago in Africa, buck naked, with the same tools we have on us now. These lousy fingernails, we didn't even have claws, and these lousy teeth. Every animal on the planet could have eaten us. And today, they all do our bidding. Now, you may say to yourself, well, that's not a nice thing. I'm not saying that we got to go around and kick animals and, throw them around. What I'm saying is we can. Because every problem humanity has ever faced, it has overcome. And not just overcome, beaten it. Beaten it. The number one killer of human beings as far as disease goes on planet Earth is influenza. Not smallpox, not plague, it's influenza. The number of people who died of influenza in 1919 exceeded the number of people who died in World War I. Now you have 1,000 people die of influenza in one part of the world, or 1,000 people die of Ebola in one part of the world, and we look at that as horrible. And it is, it's tragic, it's not such a good thing. But it's certainly a lot better than the way things used to be. I'm not saying your life is going to be perfect. I'm not saying bad things won't happen to you. I'm talking about in the aggregate. It's possible. It's possible. You're going to be at the Burj Hotel in Dubai. You're going to be up on the roof of that thing, and you're slipping up an antapil and you fall off. And now you're plummeting to earth. You can take solace in the idea that your life doesn't look too good, but the rest of us are doing okay, and probably will be. Thank you very much.